Good evening and welcome to Lead Story Prime. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Now, each time there's a major weather event on the island, Jamaica's vulnerabilities are laid bare. Flooded roads, collapsed hillsides and homes flooded or washed away. From poor drainage to unchecked construction on gully banks, the pattern has become painfully familiar. But as the damage mounts, questions are growing about how prepared the country really is to manage disasters and whether years of planning and policy have done enough. Joining us in studio tonight for this discussion are disaster risk management specialist and former director of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. Next to me, Dr. Barbara Carby. Urban planning expert consultant Professor Carol Archer from the University of Technology, city engineer at the Kingston St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, Xavier Shevans, and Mayor of Maypen, Joel Williams. Welcome, everyone. Now, before we go to our guests, here's Amoy Harriet with this overview.
Daphne Bennett has lived in Cassia Park, Kingston for many years. This is her backyard, or what's left of it.
They have a tree, and every time I mark the tree and the tree gone. So it take it one little time and it a creeping and a creeping. So the rain fall, the flood that we have the Friday, it reached the second hole. So when it reached the second hole, so you can know that it was so terrible. So me think said the gully was going to break.
Her house and the sandy gully slowly merging into one. Most of the damage, she says, happened during Hurricane Beryl in 2024.
If you notice, we don't have any wall there. So when the rain, the water come from up the stream, and so comes it to leak out and it continue to leak out the wall.
Sandy Gully is repeatedly flagged as a critical weak point, with many calling it an infrastructure emergency.
The state with the gully in and out, yeah, is a life and death situation, the gully, you know. The last time they say budget read, they say money come forward to fix on the gully. But yet still, I know we don't see no representative, no representation come at Cassia Park. You understand? And we have Cassia Park MP, we have Cassia Park councillor on both sides, PMP and Labour right. So the state with the gully in and out, it needs to be addressed, and the Prime Minister must know, say, anybody house wash way, anybody picnic wash way, anybody life wash way, you are going to be all responsible for the community and the losses.
People pass right at the gully bank right here so all the time, even young children, you know, probably even wouldn't know the danger of this thing. Because it can collapse anytime, you know, you don't really need no rainfall.
So we can't look for anything happen. We have to go trust that we don't have a heavy rain again.
But that's almost inevitable. Jamaica sits in the path of nature's fiercest forces: hurricanes, flooding, landslides, and storm surges. Now, every time heavy rains sweep across the island, infrastructure pays the price. Homes collapse, roads washed out, and lives disrupted. And for many Jamaicans, Daphne's story hits painfully close to home. Mountain View in September.
I'm literally tired. More. We talk to them, we beg them before it reached that stage here, before the gully wall burst. The water literally come almost at the window. See the water mark there? Me not tell you like, see there? If you look all along the wall, you see how high.
Days later, Trafalgar Park in New Kingston.
See there? Mud. See there? Mud.
In rural areas, the situation is often more dire.
Yeah, man, I'm tired of this thing, man. A day and night, man, I feel clean it, you know. And, you know, every man have to walk with a shovel, fork or something.
Now, poor maintenance of drainage channels, clogging from debris, development in flood-prone zones, and inadequate capacity of stormwater systems are recurring problems. Some argue that many urban gully or drainage systems were built without anticipating climate change, increased rainfall intensity, or more severe storm events. Now, Jamaica suffers hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructural losses each time severe weather strikes. Drawing on data data from the government, CVM News found that road infrastructure damage from heavy rains in November 2023 carried a $409 million price tag. In July 2024, Hurricane Beryl left the island reeling, with the schools alone sustaining nearly $800 million in damage. Just months later, preliminary estimates placed road damage from Tropical Storm Rafael between $500 million and $1 billion. Now, these figures don't even account for the fresh wave of damage racked up since the start of 2025, a tab that, by all indications, is still climbing every time the sky opens. Now, there have been several projects and initiatives over the years by government to improve infrastructural resilience, but scenes like those in Cassia Park, Mountain View, and Trafalgar persist.
And it'll get worse and worse.
Reporting for Lead Story Prime, I'm Amoy Harriet.
Thank you so much for that, Amoy. Let's start with you then, urban planning consultant, Dr. Professor Carol Archer. A lot of what we're seeing here seems to be coming down to planning and our infrastructure. A lot of the issues there. In the past, when we speak about where people settled, we often speak about the gully banks and people living on the gully banks. We're also seeing some of it with some of the modern developments in terms of where some of the development is taking place. How much of a concern is that for you?
Oh, we should be very concerned about how we have been managing our lands, especially in the urban areas. We need to be more mindful to manage stormwater runoff. When you have the type of events that we've heard in the story, meaning that we've had increased hurricane intensity of rainfall and so forth, that will then deposit water in the space. The spaces are paved over, so the water does not get to percolate. The streams, the gully, the waterways are clogged because of improper solid waste management. And so these are some of the contributing factors that would cause damage to lives and property. So until we put the necessary planning and programs in place, we will continue, unfortunately.
Planning and programs, and the man responsible for some of this, Xavier Chevans from the Kingston St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, are here with us. Before I ask you to respond to what Professor Archer mentioned, Nadine Thompson from Trafalgar Park, they're one of the residents affected twice actually by the recent flooding in Kingston. I know the KCMC has reached out to her to offer some support. What's the latest on her situation?
Yes, so when we left, we had the issue, the drain was an issue. We stepped in, we had the drain cleared, but she had requested some social assistance. And through our disaster coordinator, those social assistance was coordinated with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to offer that type of social assistance just to get back to some form of livelihood and so forth. But what we had done would have prevent any reoccurrence, more importantly in the short term.
What specifically did you do? What was the issue that led to her being flooded out twice?
So the issue is that the drain that runs through the property is along Braemar Avenue, and her property is behind that property on Braemar Avenue because she's on Glendon Drive. So the drain on Braemar Avenue was blocked by debris coming from all the way up by Lady Musgrave Road. So the debris blocked the drain, so the water didn't have any, it could pass through. So as a result, it flooded out the property at 15A Braemar Avenue. And because the adjoining wall to Nadine was not structurally sound enough, eventually.
What kind of property is at 15A Braemar Avenue?
It looked like a mixed-use property. It wasn't fully functional. So there was some amount of activity that dormant activity. It was dormant. There's not a lot of activity taking place there.
I think that's a property that is experiencing what they call change of use. I'm quite familiar with the neighborhood.
Okay.
And when you have improper solid waste, when we have not given enough attention to managing and maintaining our drains, if you look in that area and see the development and how the land use have changed over the last, 5-10 years, we would have seen higher density with paved area. Where is the water going? The water is coming. It has to be managed. We have not put the necessary programs in place. We have not maintained what we have. And the maintenance is one thing, but we are maintaining what was put in place in the 1950s.
And whereas the modern developments that we're seeing right now, and the paving that you're going on, I was speaking to Dr. Wayne Reed a week ago, and a structural engineer, and he was speaking exactly about what you're saying. For you, Dr. Carby, you wrote about this in the Gleaner. You're saying the devaluing the environmental degradation that we're seeing right now and how we're treating the environment. You said that it is second only to crime, based on how that's how badly you see it. Why?
Right, yes. Well, it could be called an environmental crime, I suppose, although it's not deliberately done. It's more neglect, so it's more omission than commission that is causing the problem.
What exactly is being neglected? Explain what you mean.
I see your title there, Jamaica's Disaster Risk Management Challenges. But to me, what you have shown is not a disaster risk management challenge. It's a development challenge. Now, we talk about the interplay between development and disasters, and very often we say that disasters can set back development by many years, because a lot of resources that would normally have gone into development, after disaster you have to use it for reconstruction. So that end of the equation is perfectly true. But at the same time, at the other end, if you do not pay attention to your development practice, you're going to cause disasters. So you really need to make sure that your development practice takes into account everything.
And I want to go into that a little bit more, and also bring in Joel Williams on this as a mayor, because one of the criticisms that's widespread now is about the KMCMC and what's being approved versus and the kind of inadequately regulated developments. And I do want to get some perspective from Joel Williams and Xavier Chevans on that a little bit more on the other side of this break, though. Stay with us here on Lead Story Prime on CVM TV.
It's time!
Welcome to High School Pitchside. We have another fascinating episode for you.
More matches, more big clashes.
Let's talk about some of the big rivalries coming up this week.
More of your favorite features.
And trust me, you won't fall asleep in this history class.
And of course, we always want to hear from you.
Hear from your alma mater's players and coaches in Team Talk.
You know we can't leave you out. So send us your messages on social media and watch us react on FanView.
And you know we love a good little debate, right, Gio? We've got you covered all season long on High School Pitchside.
High School Pitchside, your ultimate guide to all things schoolboy football, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
Hey everybody, I'm Yendi, and this is Odyssey with Yendi. In this space, we connect with some of your favorite people as they share their journeys. Here we have some unfiltered conversations as we deep dive into their inspirations, motivations, and experiences to inspire our own life journey.
Odyssey with Yendi, brought to you by Grace, Singer, and IslandNet Services.
Welcome back to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. I'm Giovanni Dennis. I'm talking with various stakeholders. We're looking at how the developments that we're seeing right now, the settlements, where some of the settlements are being built, and how that may be impacting and contributing to some of the flooding that we're seeing in the country. And before the break, Dr. Barbara Carby was speaking about what you call perhaps environmental crime, but not necessarily being deliberately done. And one of the things you write about is that you're concerned about some of the oversight as well, with some of the developments that you're seeing across the city as well. Just how egregious are some of these oversight issues?
Well, I'm no expert in that. Just based on what I've seen, though, in the media, mainly, I think this whole problem of exceeding the number of approved units is a serious one. But what concerned me more was the judge's comment in a case that came up in court. And one of the observations by the judge was that there was no supervision at the pouring of the slab on this particular building, wherever it was. I don't remember the details of the case. Now, that caught my attention immediately. And that caught my attention because I thought about it and I said, well, if they're not there at the pouring of the slab, were they there when the steel work was being done? Because for earthquake resistance, the way you manage steel, your connections and so on are extremely important. If they're not being adequately supervised, how do we know that they were properly done? The concrete is as well needs to be of the proper standard because that is what is going to hold together. So really, more from an earthquake perspective, I am concerned about the potential lack of supervision of many of the buildings which are going up.
Yeah, I do want to bring you in as well, Mr. Williams. Before that, I want to come back to you, Mr. Chevrons. I think the case that Dr. Carby is referring to is one that happened in Acadia, in the Acadia area. And I remember that case because I've done a story about that. Since that time, the KCMC has sought to make some internal changes in terms of your approval process and the monitoring. What sort of changes have been made coming out of those issues? A lot of these issues came up in 2022, the latter parts of 2022, 2023.
So what we have looked at, our approval process is good. There's no that issue.
Should I say the approval process is good?
Our approval process, we have a very good, robust approval process. So the issues that came up was in terms of monitoring and our ability to monitor those developments. But the public must be reminded that in the Building Act, the applicant also has a responsibility. So it's not only the regulatory agency. What do I mean by that? The Building Act clearly states that the applicant should request inspections. So you find from time to time the applicants, they do not request the inspections for us to carry out those inspections. When we do catch up, sometimes the buildings are well...
I'm sorry, Mr. Sevan, I just wanted to understand if I'm understanding what you're saying clearly, because I saw even Professor Archer reacting. The applicant should request inspections. So
yes.
we have a regime where you have contractors and developers who are trying to beat the system, add an extra 2 or 3 rooms here, put in, you said 2 rooms, they want to build 3, and you said they should request the supervision?
No, man.
The people who want to break the law?
No. So the Building Act is clear. If you go from one stage to the other, you're required to request an inspection. That is obligatory. That is obligated on the applicant. So what I'm saying is that when you don't request the inspections for us to carry out those inspections, when we do our inspections, we request that you provide us with a structural engineer's report. That is for the building process. So what we have stepped up the monitoring regime. However, we still are few in numbers to monitor the amount of developments in time that is required. So, but we, as long as when the applicants do their requests, we carry out those inspections with alacrity. We also do our random inspections.
That's where I was going with. Like, you don't have the onus to random inspection, especially given the context I was seeing in Jamaica, because a lot of my viewers would be watching and hearing and they say, oh, we have a good approval process and so on. And the same Jamaica we live in. Right.
So we have our random inspection. So our random inspection would highlight and look at those areas where the gaps are, outside of those persons that are required to request. So you're pouring a foundation, you're required for us to inspect those foundations to highlight the issues that Dr. Carby she would have highlighted in terms of the structural reinforcement, the steelwork, to ensure that it is according to code and what was approved before you pour. And as you pour your foundations, you put up your columns and your beams, are you ready to pour the slab? Another inspections is carried out momentarily and so forth to ensure that the buildings are built to withstand seismic activity based on the load-bearing capacity of the soil and the load-bearing capacity of the building that is being built.
Yeah, in terms of the overall monitoring, what has changed since 2022?
So the overall monitoring, we still are few in numbers. So the random inspections that we would want to carry out, we cannot carry out as much as we can in terms because of our numbers. But we are putting some intrinsic safeguard that His Worship will speak more about in subsequent weeks. That come January, these are some processes that will be fully implemented. But in the time being, what we do is to, when persons request inspections, we carry those inspections, and when the buildings are approved, the applications are approved, we carry out those random inspections on a quarterly basis as best as possible. So
for clarity, so the issues that have been raised, and again, it's not new, but they came to light majorly in 2022, places like Charlie, Montacadia, and Birdsucker as well, with some of those developments. You're saying now, 3 years later, that the mayor will be speaking in a few weeks, some of these issues, some of the changes that you're going to be implementing in January?
There's a lot of changes that would have implemented.
Like what? That's what I'm asking.
In terms of the inspection regime.
But you just said the numbers still short for some of the inspections.
Yes, in terms of our officers that we have. That's what I said. In terms of numbers, we mean the officers to carry out those works.
Okay, but so you get new officers and get rid of some of them?
No, so through the Ministry of Finance, they have opened up the posts for us to advertise. Because we only have 4 officers currently.
Yes, I remember.
We only have 4 officers to cover the municipality. So let me make it clear, 4. So with the 4 officers, we have to be strategic in how we carry out our operations within law. So what we intend to do, His Worship will speak more about it come January, is because the numbers are few, and we also request persons would have applied for the post and so forth. So with that, if the numbers don't come in as we'd want it to, we offer other intrinsic safeguard to prevent issues. That's what you would have highlighted.
When you say numbers come in, as in more
persons, more building
plan is to get
more inspectors.
How many more are you trying to get at the moment?
So through the ministry, they have approved, I think, additional 9 inspectors.
Okay, so that would bring it up to 13.
Yes.
Would that be enough of a change for you, Professor Archer, with what we're seeing happening across the city?
Well, certainly it would be a move in a positive direction, but I think there are some other things that we have to take into consideration. So yes, you would put up the building, and I mean, all of us here in Jamaica would want to know that the buildings that we are investing in terms of, purchasing a house or renting, it is safe. Yes, and so the mechanisms are being put in place for that. But there are some other things that we need to be concerned about. So the issue of density, how many units we are putting in the space. How do we manage the water runoffs? I mean, one of the things that we have in the very development order, which guides how we do development, is this whole issue of rainwater harvesting. So the question I would have
before I go to the rainwater harvesting, though, I want to bring in Mayor Williams. Mayor Williams, the issues that we're seeing plaguing the KCMC in Kingston with some of the inadequately regulated developments, how much of an issue is that for you in Clarendon, and how do you treat with it?
We do have those issues also in Clarendon, and if I may dare say, across Jamaica. Yeah. We have to treat with it, as the officer has said, what we have to work with. We have the challenges too, as it relates to the number of officers to police. these various development. But nonetheless, we tried our best to make sure that especially those that we believe are critical development that needs to be policed, we do so.
Is there a need, you think, though, for municipal corporations across the country to be more empowered and more resourced to carry out the functions from central government? How much of an issue is that in terms of the actual resources that you have to do the jobs?
Resources are challenges. Yeah. That's where we face a challenge with our resources. Not enough, because if we had enough resources, we'd be talking about this probably now about you know, how we monitor the development across the country and across the various municipalities.
Yeah, a lot of people looking on would look on and say, though, like, really and truly, with what you have, enough isn't being done. And it's, again, this is not just towards Maple. I'm speaking more generally now. And again, the KCMC will come in for much of the criticism here, because a lot of the developments are happening in Kingston.
But Giovanni, you're talking about development now as it relates to putting up structures. Let us backtrack a little and let us look at our drainage system.
Yeah, I want to. We're looking at the settlement first. You know, we're looking at the settlement and where the development's happening first. We're going there.
Many of these drains were built way back in the 50s,
years ago,
before I was born.
So since
and they are now crumbling, because of lack of maintenance. Some of them are too small for the magnitude of water that we are having with climate change.
All right, so that's where we're going on the other side of this break. We're speaking about drainage issues. So we've been looking at the settlements, what's been going up, where people are developing and building. When we come back, we want to explore the issue of drainage and, you know, are they sufficient? Stay with us here on Lead Story Prime. We'll be right back.
Everybody, I'm Yendi, and this is Odyssey with Yendi. In this space, we connect with some of your favorite people as they share their journeys. Here we have some unfiltered conversations as we deep dive into their inspirations, motivations, and experiences to inspire our own life journey.
Odyssey with Yendi. Brought to you by Grace, Singer, and Island Net Services.
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction, 'cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music hits I play, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling, don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't fit it down, shine your lights
on. Where it all begins. The quest to become great. Inspired by those who went before them, these four boys dream of playing in the ISSA schoolboy football competitions.
Will you score this for Casey? Will you score? It's a shot, it's a goal!
And it's a shot, and it's a goal! And Casey has won the Manning Cup, and they will play Clarendon College in the Olivia Shield.
Start your journey with a Jane Bank Small Business Loan, with small business loans with as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million.
The time is 8:30.
Welcome back to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. We're talking about preparation for natural disasters, hurricanes, and how we prepare for these. We were looking before the break on settlement areas, places where people are building. And we moved away from just looking at the areas, traditionally where landslides happen, people building near gullies. It's not just that now, but some of the developments happening within the city. And there was a point before we go on fully to the drainage now that you want to make, Xavier Chevans.
Yes. So currently at the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, 80% of our applications are single-family residents. So I want to make the point that there is no direct correlation between high-rise building and flooding, in the sense that the buildings are stuck high, so it goes high. The precipitation comes from the sky. So if you have an hypothetical situation, if you have two adjoining properties, one with a multifamily, say a 10-story structure on a 1-acre property versus a house on the 1-acre property, and if both persons decide to pave their property to make it impermeable, the runoff from the single-family property would be the same runoff from the multifamily property. So I just wanted to make that clear in terms of the high-density development versus a single-family development. So when we look at part of our conditions of approval, look at how you control those stormwater on site. What we recommend to persons is that we do rainwater harvesting, and also these stormwater that is retained on site also use as a requirements under the fire brigade approval to ensure there are water in property.
But what Professor Archer is speaking about, and what she has written about, is the enforcement of these runoffs, and that's what she's raising. So it's developments that are happening. So okay, fine, you have high-rise buildings going up and then multifamilies. Is the removal of the green areas is the point that Professor Archer
increase, so you remove the vegetation, you have hard surface that prevents the water from percolating. You increase the runoff. The water has to go somewhere. Most of the development, according to the development order, the water is to be managed on property. But that is not taking place. No. What the water is doing is being forced onto the roadway. It damages the road. It damages properties along the way. And that's what we are seeing.
So high-rise are not, Mr. Chevans, basically what they're saying is how we're managing the water, the whole pavement. That's a major issue.
It is how we manage the water.
As a result of increasing density. Because the increasing density, if it is not properly monitored and managed, results in more paved over areas. You can have high density, and it is done in places like Singapore, where but they manage stormwater. They manage water in general. And so we don't have the devastation there. I mean, different climatic condition, but if you were elsewhere where you do have flooding, you see minimal damage because they are able to manage.
And remember that trees play a critical role in flood mitigation. So your canopy is going to break the rainwater that's coming down. It's going to hold some of that water. So you're actually reducing the time to peak flow. Then the roots provide channels for percolation. So you get increased percolation because if you have these large trees, not palms, large trees. The roots then provide channels for the water to percolate.
Are you, I see people watching right now and saying, wait, why Dr. Kirby attacking me and my palm at my house? Mr. Williams, the issue you wanted to speak about, and we're moving now to the issue of drainage though. So yes, we have these increase in density island-wide, but the drainage system as is insufficient. And then the maintenance of it is also a major issue. I think in Clarendon right now, in Europe, area, and I think in Rocky Point, I think in Portland Cottage, I think in Mitchelltown, where I'm from as well, and then places like Guinea Tree and Maple. I saw you speaking about that last year as well. What, if anything, are you doing about the drainage issue in Clarendon?
This is where central government is going to have to be impactful, because as I was saying earlier before, many of these gullies were built out in the 50s. They have now become weak. The walls are breaking apart. So when the flood water from the hills of Chapelton or Langsville comes down into the area of Button, Western Park, Harris Street, Guinea Tree, you're going to have flooding. Two, a lot of those areas in the hillsides are now being, trees are being removed. Roads have been built. Houses have been constructed. So where you would normally, in the past, water would be run off in a very easy way, back into the aquifer. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
As Doc has said.
Are you aware of the issue at a place called in Halsall, I think Bottom Halsall, a couple of years ago, almost the entire community was underwater. What changes have taken place there in that particular area?
Continual cleaning of drains and manholes.
That's happening right now in
that
that
has
area?
happened, yes.
Because I was driving down on that stretch near past Jamaica going down the other day, and I was looking on either side, and this seemed that there's some serious debushing that needs to happen.
And there's a manhole in that area. If it is not cleaned, you're going to end up with the
how has Maypen managing with the recent bouts of rainfall that we've had?
Thank God we are doing well thus far. We have been able to do some minor cleaning through the municipalities because we can't take on the huge drains. That's the responsibility of the National Works Agency. But thus far, we are doing well, and I'm just hoping that for the rest of the hurricane season, we don't have any excess rainfall.
Speaking of that, though, let's look at some of the bigger issues. You wanted to stop me right there?
It is managing and maintaining the drains built 50 years ago is one thing. Development is happening. How do we, in addition to facilitate the development, we now have to give consideration to how we treat the infrastructure going forward, because 50-year infrastructure, 50-year technology will not support the type of development that has been pushed so far. Yes, that's like putting a square peg in a round hole. So we need, and there are technologies, some very simple technologies that can be used. I've been talking about the whole Sponge City approach, which requires that we build parks, bioswales, a whole host of, and they have been implemented elsewhere, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are places right in our backyard in the Caribbean region where those technologies have been implemented and they have worked well.
Supporting infrastructure then, Mr. Sevans, why we're not seeing that happening as much, the maintenance of the drains, the expansion of the drains as much as we're seeing the development happening, the supporting infrastructure, major concern?
Well, most of the infrastructure in terms of our gullies and our main waterways were done through central government. But we have had a lot of collaborations. We have been brought to the table more often now, because we are looking at some solution in some areas, and some of it has been bearing fruit.
Like where?
So we have looked at, well, currently now, we had an issue with flooding on Central Avenue, which we are now addressing where the Queen's High School is. So
there's a big development there as well. My producer was screaming in my ears to ask you about that from earlier, and we saw them putting up some sandbags there earlier this week, I think yesterday as well.
Yes. So it is on the way. We are raising level of that road, because that road has a belly in it. So we're taking out that to make it a bit more level so the water can run off without
I see Professor Archer and Dr. Carvey want to jump in on it. So I want each of you to come in.
No, take this first. Mine is a philosophical.
I want you to come in on this. Let me finish the point though.
You ask you what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're recognizing some areas where we are ponding, and we are addressing those areas strategically, system by system. But persons must understand flash floods. What is flash flood? So these are rapid precipitation. So what happen, because of climate change, the quantity of rainfall that normally falls within like a 3-hour span is now falling within 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And as a result, our existing infrastructure cannot deal with that because of climate change. Fine. So this is an onset because of stormwater on our roadways. In some areas, we can widen the drains. Some areas we can go deep, as well as some areas we can be strategic in how we improve our roadway in a way that we don't allow too much water to run down along a road without being intercepted by some drainage infrastructure. So we are looking into that, us and the National Work Agency. So we have looked at Central Avenue. We're at
Before we move on from Central Avenue, and I do want to hear to tell me where you are at elsewhere as well. You wanted to say something on that, Professor Archer?
For me, and I'm hearing the local authority taking the responsibility, and that's good. But how we do development, if we continue, you realize that it's going to get worse. So the local authority, they're approving development. I would want to see them go one step further, where they can sit with the developer and say, look, this is how it is going to impact the infrastructure. Now, the basic fees that to support that development, and this might be controversial, but I think we need to go there. Yes? The impact for bringing that development in that area, given the environmental condition, we probably now need to, and the local authority need to be very brave in saying, let us look at how we are approving development. It cannot be the same way, okay, yes, you can go there, we will just raise the road and, you know.
So basically a part of the condition to approve is that they have to contribute to the infrastructure, the supporting infrastructure being developed.
The supporting, that needs to be considered.
Dr. Carby, you're right about this, and you say if for every $1 spent on risk reduction, you save $5 or $10 down the line.
Yeah, this
but
is
before you go into that, though, we have to take another break, or final break here on Lisa. The time is running off so quickly. So many more issues to discuss here on preparing for natural disasters. Stay with us on Lead Story Prime. We'll be right back.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Where it all begins. The quest to become great. Inspired by those who went before them, these four boys dream of playing in the ISA schoolboy football competitions.
Will you score this for Casey? Will you score? It's a shot, it's a goal!
And it's a shot, and it's a goal! And Casey has won the Manning Cup, and they will play Clarendon College in the Olivia Shield. And that's what you love to see. They may be rivals, but the camaraderie is what it's all about. Can't wait for the final.
When the bus the man, I want to watch my son play finals on CVM, you know.
But mums, you can't watch it on CVM website, man.
Score! My son score! My son score! My son score! My son score!
Greatness begins here.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate. The time, brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency, is
8:45.
Welcome back to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. We're talking about how we prepare for natural disasters, what's happening and what needs to happen. Now, an urban city planner and an urbanist, an international urbanist, spoke recently about what's happening in downtown Kingston. And let's hear from Brent Toderan.
What you have is nowhere near good enough. It's actually bad in many ways. I've said it a few times, it's some of the things, including that water edge condition, is worse than I expected. And I was already prepared to be concerned with what I saw, but it was worse than I expected. When I went to the water edge where there are things and people, this is what I found. Now, I'm not going to pick on you because I know you're working on the plan. You've got a project in mind, I know that. But the fact that it got to this level, and by the way, if I could figure out a way for a camera to capture smell, when I say it was worse than I expected, this is why.
Professor Archer, you were talking about this yesterday, not knowing that we had a little bit of it as well covered. He went deeper into some of the issues that he raised down there, and you were sharing some of the issues and saying, wow, here's somebody else talking about it. You were saying, boy, he was so critical, you held on to your pearls.
Well, not only that, but for me, the needle was moved. And as not only an educator, but a practicing professional, I wanted now to get to action. Yeah, and I mean, just the whole issue, we haven't gotten there yet, but part of the issue of flooding has to do with solid waste management. Yes. Because the drains are blocked by poor solid waste management. Yeah. One. Some of the very things that central government, NWA, would have done. One of the issues with Central Avenue is the overpaving on Constant Spring. That forces the water onto Central Avenue and causes flooding. Now, one of the calls to action for me is to ensure that the various agencies of government take responsibility. We have a plethora of knowledge, experienced individuals.
On the issue of solid waste management, just I think early this week, the mayor of Kingston was speaking, I think today, saying, you know, there are communities right now where 4 to 8 weeks no garbage has been collected, and that seems to be an ongoing issue as well. How do we address this? Like, as municipal corporations collectively, Mr. Williams, the issue of collecting the solid waste, because at some level, the municipal corporations have a part to play.
Well, in my neck of the wood, I can tell you, and the solid waste team there could tell you, I have a hands-on approach. My door is open to every community, and I am inundated with calls on a daily basis. And once those calls come to me, I react. And I must say, I do get results. And if I don't get the result, I'm going to call Audley Garden.
Yeah, I don't want to be unfair to Mr. Sheffield.
But you have to have an hands-on approach. We are paying them. Huh? And if they are not doing the job, then I must sit on their back.
Yeah. Some of these issues are properly put to the NSW, the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Audley Gordon. He's not here today, and we didn't invite him actually, so let's just be fair with that. We did invite, however, the Minister of Works, Robert Morgan, who declined our request to be here today. He said at some future point. For you though, Dr. Carby, the issue of solid waste, what do we need to do to change our approach with dealing with our solid waste to kind of mitigate some of the issues that we're seeing on screen just now with the garbage all over?
Yes, well, I think recycling would be a large part of it. I do know that the Solid Waste Management Agency...
Sorry, does that work though? Because I know the jingle out of my head by heart. No, dirty up Jamaica, please. And all the campaigns and the coastal cleanup, Jet's doing an amazing job of that.
Right.
With marketing solid waste, we're seeing the different bins being put all over, even here at CVM in the kitchen as well. We kind of containerize and we separate them. Is it enough though?
Well, that's a start.
Sorry, Dan. I have right now 3 huge bags of bottles because I do separation. And I called solid waste last week. I said, where can I drop these off? because there's no space, there's nowhere in Maypen for those who wish to do separation of garbage to take those bottles.
And
so I
one of the
have them
things-
packed at home.
And one of the things that the local authorities ought to be doing in terms of future development of its towns and cities is to ensure, work through collaboration with the various agencies, including solid waste, you have the facility that would support the recycling.
Right.
So it's not
Well, I
just
know-
about solid waste alone. As you know, city leaders, as decision makers in the urban space, you now have to say, going forward, we know flooding is a problem. We see that the flooding is caused by, among other things, solid waste, lack of proper solid waste management. So the local authorities need to put things in place, and it starts very simple at the community level.
But that's a major
not
issue then,
happening.
because here you have a mayor now talking, mayor of Maypen now reaching out to the head of the solid waste management and saying, hey, I have this whole heap of plastic here, now come for it, and in 3 weeks or up to a month now, that's significant, Dr. Carvey.
Well, yes. I mean, the systems need to be put in place and they need to work. In my area, the National Solid Waste Management Agency collects the bottles, the plastic bottles. So once you bag them, every other week, they're pretty good about this. Every other week they come
when
around.
they come, because they are challenged too,
and they,
as a government
they
agency.
collect. But there's cardboard, right? A lot of cardboard and paper can be actually recycled. So that is not really done formally, as far as I know. I mean, I take mine to a friend who takes it to her husband's office. But not many people are going to go through that to actually recycle. The other aspect of it is this, that I don't think people think about, or the government thinks about. If you keep buying cheap, disposable objects, you're going to have more waste, right? So how are you going to manage that? And that is a problem for government. Do you have this unrestricted import policy?
Yes.
Where stuff that is not biodegradable comes into the country in large quantities, and then you don't know what to do with it. What are we going to do with motor cars? What is our motor car end of road management policy? So these are things, I don't know, I think in Jamaica we do things first, and then we think about, oh, that's going to be a problem. How am I going to solve that problem now?
We need to be intentional, which is what Brent spoke about in his presentation. We need to be intentional about our urban spaces. It is not just about high rise and how far and how wide and how pretty it can be. We need to be intentional about how we live, how we function in the city. And we need to be intentional to address the problems and concerns that we are faced with. We need to be intentional about not having Christine being flooded again next year.
You mean Nadine Thompson?
Nadine.
Sorry, I want to get final comments from you because you have just about 4 minutes ago. But before that, you write about this, you've been quoted about the sponge city approach. Just expound and explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. So, the concept was introduced by Professor Yu out of China. And it was an attempt, or it is an attempt, to manage water in urban spaces. And they've used various means of managing the water. So we talk about rainwater harvesting. When you have paved over areas, water is collected, it filters through the ground, it's collected, it can be reused for potable use. It can be used as grey water. The water is harvested, collected in green spaces. So you at one point you will see a park, but it's actually a sink to hold water during flood events. And then the water naturally percolates. There are the bioswales and number of things.
You're also critical of Barbican in terms of some of the...
Barbican and Constant Spring, where we could have channeled the water along those roadways much better into these bioswales or green spaces to manage the runoff.
Is it a similar thing for Marcus Garvey Drive?
All of those areas very similar, because you see you have the water because of the geography of Kingston and with the development in the hills, and the water because of paved areas coming down. Improper solid waste. Drains being clogged because they have not been managed, they have not been maintained, they have not been expanded. So all of those things are compounded. We need to start small. And first thing is to be, what is the city that we need? Now, thankfully, we have a mayor and some technical staff in KCMC, and they are listening. So I'm quite encouraged by it.
Okay. So we have about 2 minutes to go. Where do we need to go from here for you, Dr. Kirby? Practically next steps, because I did read where Professor Archer was saying, listen, if more rain come next week again, we're going to have the same issues.
Problem.
So
Yes.
we know the problem exists as they are right now. Thinking solution oriented going forward, the immediate steps to kind of curb down on some of the flooding that we're seeing. What needs to happen?
Well, I think we need to change our philosophy of development. I think if our development is driven by money and profit, it's a totally different approach from if it's driven by the well-being of our citizens and the future of Jamaica looking down the road. So which approach will we take? There is no short-term fix. We can clean drains and that will alleviate the flooding a little bit. We must sit and think long-term about our development. And the way of cities now is to become greener. So we're talking about the bioswales, for example. We had a fantastic wetland out in the area of Ferry that you could have channeled water to. It's now covered with buildings.
And
other
roadways.
cities
And roadways.
and roadways. Other cities are preserving their wetlands to help with this sponge effect for the water. They're taking out hard drainage, putting in green, what we call nature-based solutions.
Okay.
Green infrastructure, more and more is going into cities.
For you, Professor Archer, in 10 seconds, what we need to do?
Committed decision makers and technocrats, committed to the city they want.
Next steps for you right now that Jamaicans can expect. What are you doing?
Strong collaboration, which we have started with the National Work Agency, so we can fuse that to ensure that we come up with a solution, engineer-based and international best practices to reduce the flooding impact in our city.
Sounds very good, Mr. Shevans. I hope you can see the practicality of it.
We need to hold them accountable.
Hold them accountable. For you, Mr. Williams, you have the final word.
We have to continue to build out and to make sure that what we're doing is people-friendly in order to make sure that the environment breathes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that's all the time we have for you here on Lead Story Prime on CVM TV. We've been looking at preparing for disasters and what we are doing in terms of our flooding, in terms of settlement, where we are building so many more issues to discuss on this. This is just a continuation of the discussion, certainly not the end of it. I'm Giovanni Dennis. A special thank you to all my guests who participated. A special thanks as well to our producer Amoy Harriet for that overview and our entire production crew. This is Lead Story Prime. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Stay tuned. Well, I deliberately never ever come touch on the people.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yeah.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m.